Welcome back, and I have. Is this a rum teeny, Roger?
It's a
So,
hibiscus rum teeny.
cheers to
Okay,
Fridays.
hold on, I have to
Oh,
stop
sorry.
you.
Okay,
I have to stop you.
I'm being stopped.
At Hibiscus Spirits and at Spice Mill, we do not say cheers. That is a very bad word.
Ah.
Okay, so I'm going to introduce you to the new toast. It's not cheers, it's hi.
Oh, okay.
Hi.
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 Excellent. Just what I needed for this show.
Local sorrel all the way.
Local sorrel.
Local sorrel. What people don't realize or don't know, many people don't know, is that sorrel, we are the only region in the entire globe, on the entire planet, that calls Roselle hibiscus sorrel. Right? There are other names for it.
Right.
In Mexico, they call it Jamaica, which is actually spelled Jamaica. In Florida, they call it Florida cranberry, but it comes from North Africa. And in the East, they call it hibiscus, but it is Roselle hibiscus. If you Google Roselle hibiscus, I guarantee you, every single image on Google will be what you know as sorrel. If you find one under there, I'll give you a free. That's not sorrel. I'll give you a free bottle of hibiscus spice rum.
We have a giveaway going on as well, man.
Right. So, and one other interesting fact, I don't want to take up too much time with this, is that the sorrel worldwide that is grown through studies that were done through University of Arizona, Tufts, and several other research centers have found, after testing 280 beverages which matcha green tea was known to be, or believed to be, the highest in antioxidants. Red Zinger tea, which is in the States, which is hibiscus tea, came out on top. So hibiscus or sorrel is by far has the highest content of antioxidants of any plant or flower on planet Earth.
I did not know that. So
Real studies done.
So I could.
Well, I'm not going to
I
say
could
you
slightly
drinking.
bypass my green tea and have more sips of.
Well, do a combination of both.
Okay. Well, since I'm gonna head back to O'Keefe, and we have a +1 now. You know, that's how a party starts, right? we get the party started, so we may have about 6 or 7 by the time the show is finished. So we have with us Natalie Kelsick Marshall. Okay, excellent. Partner in numerous ways with O'Keefe, but I'll let them explain. But what we're focusing on right now is the location aspect in terms of, you mentioned Brimstone Hill. And I haven't been as yet, not Brimstone Hill, but to the restaurant at Brimstone Hill. And it seems very intriguing as to, if you could explain the what, the why, the how of being located at Brimstone Hill.
Being located at Brimstone, at first it was at the airport. And my dad had a consultation at Brimstone Hill, and he brought me up there to see what was going on. And the committee reached out to me and asked me if I share interest, because they want to put something like a grab and go at the fort. And I looked at it, and while sitting down with the committee, Mr. Morton had said, what about a nightlife? Would you able to create a nightlife there? And I went up, sit down, and look at the atmosphere at Brimstone Hill. And I haven't been at Brimstone Hill for years, before last year. And I was such amazed of the panoramic view they have there, and I looked at it. I sat with my wife and I said, hey, what do you think about this? And we sat down on paper and we gave Brimstone Hill what was that? We gave them
a vision, an idea.
A vision idea, and they love it.
Okay.
And, I try my best now to execute it. I think really the Brimstone Hill actually chose me because I always want to give back to St. Kitts. And that's one of the reasons even the airport, is called 1762, which is the latitude of St. Kitts on the map. And I just always want to, since tourists was our biggest industry, I wanted to make sure at the airport starting out, I always wanted to make sure not just tourists, but our local people
Mhm.
felt comfortable of the food they get in before they leave to the US or leave to Europe or wherever in the world they was heading to, you know, and also get that customer service. Thank you. And we captivate some of that
Mhm.
at the airport. So when Brimstone Hill called me, I wanted to captivate more, not just to the tourists, but the local as well. You know, and I really feel like the location chose me, you know, because I always wanted to give back something to St. Kitts, and having Brimstone Hill to be the Gibraltar of St. Kitts, you had to come hard.
Hard, yeah, man.
You know, so I looked at it and I was like, I'm coming hard. You know, and I'm really happy to see the turnout how it is right now, and especially the staff we have, the food quality, the atmosphere, and the committee on the team of Brimstone Hill. You know, that's been showing us love since we you know, pre-opened.
Well, as you mentioned that, so you're currently open. If you could give us an idea of what the times and the days are, if someone is interested in checking you out.
Yeah, so I think I'll jump
Yeah,
on
you
that.
jump on that.
You know, Brimstone Hill, the 1762 Gibraltar is open 7 days a week.
Wow.
The only days the restaurant will be closed is Good Friday and Christmas Day. That's when the park is closed. But outside of that, he's going to be open every single day.
Wow.
So, you know, if you're having a slow Tuesday and you want to come up and have some lunch, or a slow Thursday, come up, you know, anybody is welcome. If locals are coming up, as long as you have a local valid ID, Brimstone Hill has introduced just a parking fee. So as long as you
Okay.
have a local ID, you just pay 10 EC, and everyone in the car can park for the 10 EC instead of paying 10 EC per
Per
head.
person. Okay,
Yeah.
excellent.
So, you know, and that I think really got the ball rolling and opened the floodgates last weekend when that was instituted, because O'Keefe has not done one advertisement yet. He's just been softly open, and you know how things are in St. Kitts, it's just word of mouth, you know. And then last weekend we had a full house, somewhat expected, but definitely not fully prepared. So you know how it is when things are new, we got to work out all the kinks.
Of course.
But open 7 days a week from 11 a.m. to 4 p.m. You can make reservations online really easily at 1762gibraltar.com, or you can call 660-1762, and you can make a reservation during opening hours.
Excellent, excellent. And one of the things before move on to Roger and Spice Mill is coming back to the airport part of it. You play an important part in the sense of visitor experience, because if you're a visitor to St. Kitts and you're leaving, your food may be the last experience they actually have before they leave the island. So no pressure, but that is a tremendous feat in terms of ensuring that the experience on that level, the culinary side of it, is a pleasant one. So kudos to you for having that, taking on that load, and then taking on additional load. You're talking 7 days a week. That's crazy.
And that's at
Wow.
the airport
That's-
and Brimstone,
that
7 days
is-
a week.
So, okay, so Roger has the rumtini. What are you taking? If you were willing to share that you could do 7 days a week and you still look fresh and you still like, no problem, man. Because I don't understand. 7 days a week, you're saying in your 2 restaurants?
Yeah.
That's
Well,
crazy.
I think he's drinking a lot of hibiscus rum.
I am. It's kind of bad because one part, I'm a working alcoholic. I'm
Workaholic,
yeah.
Mhm.
I think I get that from my father,
Mm.
and you know, it kind of. I mean, we have a great relationship, but sometimes I just sit down at work and just keep on working nonstop. You know, no days off, and just keep on going. And people wouldn't understand that. I come out, I still have a smile on my face, but you have to love what you do.
Correct.
Very
That's
important.
important. That's
Yeah,
important.
and I know we're on a show about creativity, but honestly, I think what drives O'Keefe is his just need for perfection, which I know a lot of chefs have, but he is very OCD about being perfect in everything. He's got to be perfect with the construction that happened, with the food, with the plating, with the staff, with the drinks. Everything has to be perfect, and I think you have to be a certain type of insane to do that, you know?
For sure.
Yeah,
For sure.
he fits that bill.
And I think, so, and Roger mentioned crazy in terms of synonymous with creative. So what was the somewhat crazy creative notion for you to determine that I'm going to have a grand restaurant over on the beach?
Okay, just one quick question before we get off the times and so on. if I wanted to come there and watch this sunset, is there a provision for that? Because I am a sunset kind of person. Is that going to come at some point soon or some point?
Great question.
Great question.
It's coming soon.
Okay, they're holding it close to their chest, it seems, right?
Coming soon. Coming soon.
Okay, that's good
All right.
enough for me. Right, no problem. Let me see if I got your question.
Oh, sorry,
Right,
Roger.
yeah.
It seems like we may be up for a commercial break. So let's take that and get you fresh to come with your part of the Spice Mill story.
INN is 98.9. 98.9 is Win FM.
Let's stop child sexual abuse. The age of consent is 16, yet our 15, 14, 13, 12, 11, and 10-year-olds are becoming victims of sexual abuse and exploitation, which is being forced into sexual activity before they are old enough to decide. This causes mental, emotional, and physical harm to our children. Parents, it is your responsibility to protect and to educate your children. Develop a relationship of trust with your child. If they trust you, they will tell you. Child sexual abuse cannot be our norm. We must work together to correct this. Help us prevent, help us protect, help us prosecute. A message by the Department of Probation and Child Protection Services. Contact us at 467-1311 or 662-6833 for more information.
Shopping with TDC just got much easier. Here's how. Log on to shoptdcgroup.com. Shop at your convenience at any time, from anywhere, with your smartphone, tablet, or computer. With our safe and secure payment checkout, you choose the option to pick up in-store or have your goods delivered right to your door. It's that easy. Shop tdcgroup.com, your one-stop online store.
Shop anywhere, shop anytime, same quality you love. Now online. Shop www.shoptdcgroup.com.
Campari, Red Passion. Embrace the mix.
Campari Red Passion, full action, this is Red Passion. Embrace the mix, add Campari, make it turn and twist. Add your chaser in your drink. Campari Red Passion, make the nicest mix. Campari!
Campari Red Passion. Embrace the mix. Must be 18 years or older to drink. Drink responsibly.
All right, we're back. And I think Roger was about to take the mic in terms of speaking about his involvement in setting up or establishing Spice Mill over at Cockleshell Beach, correct?
Yep. So, yeah, there's a misnomer that where we are, it's called Reggae Beach, but Reggae Beach Bar is on Cockleshell Bay, and Spice Mill is on Cockleshell Bay. The whole beach is Cockleshell Bay. Hats off to Gary about renaming beaches, because he renamed successfully Turtle Beach, which was previously Mosquito Bay, and they're doing an amazing job down at Reggae Beach with their branding. So, but going back to, I think it was 2007, somewhere there, I was looking around and had an opportunity that came up to purchase a property there when it was still, excuse me, when it was still somewhat affordable. And at the time I had spoken to a real estate person who said the land had sold. And I looked at it and I said, really? And he said, well, the couple who was going to purchase it would have had to go through, financing and so on. So I said, well, here's what, put me down as second in line.
Right.
And I know these real estate agents, what they do is, they'll be driving down the road and the person who owns the property calls and their inadvertently blurbs out and the person in the front seat says, a beachfront property, show it to me, and then boom, it's gone. So I literally would call these guys every 2 to 3 weeks, once a month, till they got really fed up of me. I told you I'm going to give you second choice. I am going to call you if it comes up. I said, I don't believe you. But the other thing too I was doing back then, I was doing photography. And I would go down on a little bit of a dune down on that site. And this is going to sound crazy, and I would take a lot of pictures down there. And I'd be by myself and I would sit there and say, this is going to be mine, it's going to be mine, it's going to be mine. And literally, I would say it in my mind. But what that did, it made me call them every single month. And 6 months were going by, I was in the supermarket and one of their assistants bounced me up in her cart. And she said, Roger, I think that piece of property is coming available. I said, it's mine, it's mine, it's mine. In a really stern voice, she said, okay, it's yours. Do you know the price? I said, I don't want to know. Right. I said, I'm going to sleep and dream that it was mine for 24 hours. And the next day, the real estate agent called me. When I learned the price, I almost killed myself on the gulp that I made. And then I said, here's what, 5% down this month, 5% next month, and the balance in 6 months. He said, you'll never get through. I said, well, make the offer. They waited 6 months and didn't get a penny. So I'm sure they had to give back their deposit. And he said, you are the luckiest man, when he called me back. And that's when I learned who had it, and they gave me the opportunity. In Lanza, Royal Bank manager from the Bahamas at the time, and I called him up the next week and I said, I want to have a meeting with you. And he said, I didn't know him, I never met him. And he said, okay, come to my office on Monday. I said, no, I'm picking you up. So picked him up, drove down there. At that time, the beach house was open. And when I heard he was from the Bahamas, I said, that's my avenue. He knows beachfront.
Right.
Walked on the beach. I said, what do you think about this piece of property? He says, man, I've never seen a view like this. I said, well, here's what. You're financing it for me. So I said, I don't have no money.
Yeah.
And at the time, the banks were lending, large percentages. Sat down with him and developed a relationship. Business is about relationships. And we were off to a start. And down to the last month, I didn't even know how we would cover the financing. But, when you're in a hole or you're in a quandary, for lack of a better word, you come up with creative ideas how to do things. And we got it done. And then, of course, the biggest hurdle was now, how do I get the money to build the restaurant?
Right.
And it was 2 years after I went back to the same bank. And they said, okay, the economy looks good. We would lend you X amount of dollars. And then the world started spiraling down with the recession. I had quotes from the US on refrigerators that were costing all $4,000 and $5,000, and I had to change course. And I hopped on a plane with a guy who was helping me build the beach bar, because now the bank wasn't going to give me near the amount of money that I needed. And I went to China. I had no clue. I didn't know nothing about China, and went with him, and we found freezers and refrigerators for $800. So we were able to, scrape and do things that we needed to do just to open the doors. Right. And then, there is a saying that I laugh every time I hear it, but, it means different things to different people. It's, fake it till you can make it. But really and truly what that really meant for me anyway, was, look, you know, you just have to do what you have to do to open those doors and, you know, get started.
Yeah.
And in entrepreneurship back in those days, I didn't understand it. You know, here, when you grow up in a small environment like here, you think that you have to have all the pieces of the puzzles together. Well, really and truly, now that I've had experience, you need to have several of the pieces together, yes, but then you build it as you go along, and you can crawl, and you can then walk, and then you can, you know, hopefully run, and then you're going to fall again. But the most that I've learned was from falling. Definitely. We were 6 foot under 3-4 years into it. I'm telling you, dirt thrown on me and crawling out to that hole, one fingernail at a time. 2015, you think you're getting out of it, and then hurricane comes, or 2 hurricanes in 2017. You get out of that, and then COVID hits. So not sure which one was worse, recession or COVID, but you know, we were just talking how horrible COVID was for everybody,
right.
Every individual and every company. So we've certainly learned how to weather a few storms, and I kind of say, you know, it's not about the storm. It's not my quote, but I heard it and I latched on to it. It's not about the storm. It's learning to dance in the rain. So, you know.
No,
but,
it's a very inspiring story that you just related. And I mean, if you know Roger, that's the summarized version, because Roger has such a wealth of experience in terms of, I mean, he hasn't even spoken about, because we're focusing on the culinary aspect of Brisbane Productions, which is where he mentioned earlier that we work together. So just a quick 2-minute segue in terms of the entrepreneurship aspect of it. I worked with Roger through Brisbane Productions part-time when I was maybe just after 22, there about whatever. And then I was working with a software development company called Carbifex, run by Tim Mallow. And it was a few years in, and Roger approached me and said, you know what? Because there wasn't any web development agencies at that time. Roger was doing video, he was doing print. And again, his entrepreneurial mind seeing that, well, I have print, I have video, but there's this new thing coming up, the internet. But I don't see anybody doing anything with it. And I know this young guy who seems to be kind of knowing what he's doing over there. So he approached me and said, you know, think about us maybe linking up and forming a web development company. And I naturally jumped on it. Now, that's a simple story, but it's a very impactful story, because Roger could easily, in my view, have looked outside the St. Kitts, find somebody who is, because he has and always had contacts, find someone to come in and say, you know, let's start a company. We had a little, and he spoke about relationship, we had a little early relationship. He reached out, and imagine a well-established businessman essentially partnering with, I didn't have any business experience, nothing. I had the experience in terms of the space, and saying, you run this, we'll partner and you run this. And he was literally, he would defer to me on certain decisions, on the creative side of things, the technical side of things, and we will collaborate on the business side. So I think it speaks to his character in terms of imagining, there are not many stories where a well-established business person would go into business with a new up-and-coming upstart, so to speak, and really give them opportunity to sink their teeth into the entrepreneurial world. So just a public commendation from me to Roger to say thank you for giving me that opportunity way back when. And now, just to segue into, well, sticking a little bit with entrepreneurship. O'Keefe mentioned, you know, being a workaholic and somewhat of a perfectionist. Roger is on the persistence. I think both of you are in the persistence angle, where you're not gonna just take a blow, take a body shot, and just buckle. You may, you know, bend you a little bit, but you're not gonna throw in the towel and say, well, boy, that's too hard for me. You understand that the journey is not an easy one, and I think it's important for persons out there listening to appreciate that, even in the culinary space, and maybe especially in the culinary space, when you're thinking about business, it's very, very tricky. There are all sorts of different elements that could affect you. There's the weather, there's this, there's that. It's one of those rare spaces where you have to have a major defense structure established to literally weather the storm. So commendations for that. Now, earlier on, you mentioned the hibiscus stuff, and we want to get to, in terms of now, into the deeper culinary aspect of it. You're the perfectionist, so we're going to come back to you and bounce back to Roger. In terms of like a farm to table it's kind of even maybe a little bit of an old buzzword now, but it's still buzzing around, farm to table, etc. In terms of using local or sustainable ingredients or sustainable approach, how do you see that fitting into how you're, in particular the Gibraltar aspect of it, implementing that into your operation?
Well, well, being here in St. Kitts, what I noticed that, consistency is not really given here. Majority of the agriculture and food that we have here come from overseas. I would love the fact if we could have more option, more given consistency. Like if I needed green pepper or red pepper, carrots, I could get it, get it in a bulk, other than waiting 2 months, it's not ready, It's like everybody's growing the same thing. Like when I first moved back here to St. Kitts, one of the best thing I saw was your guys' tomato. You guys have the best tomato. We pay heavy money for that type of tomato, the local tomato you have here in the States, but you can't consistently get it. Okay. And if you get it, you get in a bunch of green, nothing mid-ripe where it would, ripe for you. Our chicken, we import our chicken. Most of the fish, we're not getting large fish anymore. I know, Roger, you
yeah, very not a lot.
Not a lot, so we have to depend on the wholesales to bring in certain type of items that we need to use on the menu. If there's a farmer right now that listening right now here to come between the airport and Brimstone Hill and be consistent with pepper, carrot, parsley, there's a lot of scallion majority of the time you would see, but different options. It's not a lot here. Right now I'm working with Samal Duggan's brother. He's a farmer, and he just recently told me he got planting. And when I saw the planting he gave me, it was the best planting than what I would catch in the supermarket. There's big, green, ripe. And I tell him, hey, if you have these things, just bring it, just let me know you have it. And then he brought me pineapple. And, when you go in the supermarket, everybody could see the pineapples be this height. Right. The pineapple he brought me was about this height. And I was like, yeah, bring those to me, Right. So it's just, it's kind of hard to do a lot of creativity when it's not consistent. It's not just the farmers is not consistent, it's also even wholesales. Majority of the time they don't have what we need. So I can't blame the locals. I have to blame it's a whole circle thing.
I got you. We may be due for a commercial break. Yes. So and then once we get back, we'll jump into Roger speaking. I imagine more about the sorrel hibiscus flower, which is a key component of his spice hibiscus rum. And also how he utilizes some of the natural elements at Spice Mill as well. So we'll be right back after this commercial break. Okay.
We're different. We're 98.9. 98.9. Win FM.
Heritage matters to me. Heritage matters to you. Join me, Percival Hanley, this coming Friday and every other Friday at 10 a.m. to 12 noon for Heritage Matters on Win Media SKN 98.9. Heritage matters to me. Heritage matters to you.
Campari. Red Passion. Embrace the mix.
Campari Red Passion, full action, this is red passion. Embrace the mix, add Campari, make it turn and twist. Add your chaser in your drink, Campari, red passion, make the nicest mix. Campari!
Campari Red Passion. Embrace the mix. Must be 18 years or older to drink. Drink responsibly.
Building supplies, electrical supplies, furniture, appliances, carpets and tiles. It's the company where you can get it all. All at TDC, home and building depot. From lawn and garden, the TVs and stereos. All at TDC, home and building depot. Come on down, get what you're looking for. It's all at TDC, home and building depot.
Every step you take. St. Kitts and Nevis, are you ready to step up for mental health? It's time to lace up, show up, and make a difference. Join the Development Bank of St. Kitts and Nevis's annual mental health walk run on May 17th at Figgy Bay Lawn, starting at 4:30 a.m. sharp. Choose from 4 package options, starting at just $40 EC. Bring your best friend, your fur buddy, or your entire squad, and let's hit the road for a cause. Win cash prizes from $1,000 to $2,500, plus special prizes for the best dressed person, youngest participant, and more. Register today at any Development Bank branch or WhatsApp 869-765-4342. Together, step by step, we move for a mentally healthy federation. A huge thank you to our incredible sponsors for standing with us for mental health. Terms and conditions apply.
All right, welcome back. So we're gonna again open the mic to Roger to give us a little bit overview, the farm to table aspect of his operation, the elements that he utilizes to pursue in that range.
So for us, we when I said a number of years, I get scared, but we've been open 16 years now, and from day one, it was always my focus to try to bring as much local produce and fish and some meats to the table. We deal with many different farmers, 1 or 2 organic farmers, and others that we get through either straight from their farms or through the vendors who buy from several farmers. So our goal is to put as much local vegetables and produce on the plate as possible. Where it came to fish, we certainly have tried to develop as much relationships with the fishermen as possible. I used to drive down to Old Road almost every day by the fisheries there with several fishermen that would call me. And one of the things we realized is that a lot of the fishermen would want to sell their catch to restaurants so they get paid immediately and not have to sell it to supermarkets and stuff or wherever, so they have to wait for a check. So, I would drive down or maybe get one of my guys to drive, have a cooler in the back of my car. Quickly realize that one drop of fish blood on your trunk of your car, that's it. Your car is going to smell like fish for the next week, literally. My daughter used to jump in the car to go to school, and she's like, Daddy, this car stinks. No matter how much you clean it. But it was worth every stink of the car because, when you get back and you fillet that fish and you put it on as ceviche or grilled or whatever, there's just something about fresh fish that it's fresh. And even if a lot of the people who are coming from overseas never experienced fresh fish and they would think that, imported fish was really good, when you taste fresh fish coming off a grill or a pan or however you do it, it's just this amazingness. But having said that, there are times that we have to use some imported fish and meats because the consistency is not necessarily there. We used to see a lot of mahi in the past, local mahi. You're barely seeing any
Really?
now. I just literally 2 weeks, not even 2 weeks ago, about a week ago, I bought a 200 pound swordfish from a fisherman from Nevis. And what I tried to do is take and support them as much as possible. I used to say, well, give me half, and then they have to go and find somebody else to take the other half. If we can do it, we'll just take it all. Lobster now is slowing down, but I try to take from lobster fishermen as much as I can. There's only so much space in a freezer or several freezers, but it is what it is. And then we do specials with different things. So from a local standpoint, I think it's important to use as much local as is possible. As far as the hibiscus or the sorrel, we go as far as to support some farmers who might need some help in growing a crop, and then we'll commit to taking it all. Certainly we have seen more and more farmers growing more and more sorrel throughout the year, because I was also under the impression that it was just a Christmas thing.
Right.
And I remember speaking to, I think it was Sankofa, who's actually a good friend of mine, and he does organic farming, and he's the one who told me, we can grow it year round, it's just that we don't have the market for it. I said, well, no, you do. But it is hard to grow in dry season. But the more we can get, the more we'll take, and we've found ways to preserve it by drying it. That's the only way to dry it. Freezing it doesn't work. And then, or macerating it in high-proof spirit and then bottling that. There's all sorts of ways that we found to preserve it as much as possible. And so we use that in, of course, in the spirits, but we also use it at the bar, in the spirits at the bar, in cocktails. Most of our cocktail list, 90% of it is done with the hibiscus rums, from the hibiscus coconut coladas to the rum teenies, palomas. We actually blend a hibiscus tequila, and we distill a hibiscus gin. So we come up with different cocktails. And then on the food side of things, we make hibiscus coconut rum bread pudding. And we use the fresh sorrel flowers, soak them in syrup, and sometimes we put a little bit of alcohol to preserve it, and then we use that on ice cream. If it's just the syrup alone, and kids we use that without any alcohol, with a hibiscus or sorrel syrup, with the whole flower, crunchy. You eat the whole flower on the ice cream, it's amazing. We use that as garnishes in the cocktails. So there's a lot that we can do with it, and we try to.
You found numerous creative ways to utilize the flower.
Yes, definitely. And it's fun. It's for me, it's going into the distillery and sort of getting my mind away from the service side of the business, and then trying a few creative things. But my attention span is very limited. If they diagnosed ADHD when I was a little boy, I would have been put in a home somewhere back then.
I think a lot of us.
Yeah. Yeah. So we try to do as much local as we possibly can. And then now we do the come and make and shake your own rum martini cocktail, and we do that along with the beach tour. A lot of people come from the cruise ships, do that, and then go on the beach. We also offer that at the bar. We're going to be opening a rooftop lounge at some point soon. But so we just try to do different things to keep things fresh.
Excellent. Speaking of the creativity side of it, and you mentioned the ADHD aspect, which I think, as I mentioned, a few of us in the creative space we suffer from. We get ideas all the time, and the decision and the energy is really right. Not the point to
I know you have had many.
Yeah. So we've been in the trenches where we're sharing ideas, bouncing them back off of each other, etc. And so an article by Creative LLC 2025 suggests that in many ways we are groomed to believe that creativity is an extra, something that comes Second, to stability, achievement, or fitting in with societal norms. For years, we pushed down our creative urges, telling ourselves that personal fulfillment will come later, that we'll get back to it. We'll get back to it once we've made it, or once things settle down. But over time, those creative needs don't disappear. How important is it to lean into your unique creativity in the restaurant business? So speaking of the creativity, in terms of you will lean into it with the flour and just figuring out different ways. So Keith, how, in terms of leaning into being unapologetic, that I'm going on the creative side of things and I am, I'm just going to experiment and explore. If you could speak a bit about that.
You want to help me with that?
I can, because, just like that article said, that, sometimes we get hung up on the need to feel like you've accomplished success already before you can get to be creative. I would say that's my full-time job now, stepping away from the executive thing, fully leaning into the wifely side of myself, is that, I had to really push O'Keefe to say, hey, you need a chance to be creative, this Brimstone Hill project is a great one for you, because, being at the airport and doing fast food, you haven't been able to express yourself in that way, and lean into it. And he had so many doubts, as so many creatives suffer from imposter syndrome. That's like an epidemic among entrepreneurs, I'm sure. But I think that sometimes, it's okay to need a little hand holding so that you could feel free and feel safe to express yourself creatively, And I think that's true, definitely true for O'Keefe. I don't know if you want to expound.
No.
I sense that no is coming, because when you look on O'Keefe's face, I can tell he was like, you summed it up perfectly. And I think it's important in some cases to have someone to sometimes pull and push you, because depending on, for entrepreneurs, we go through seasons. So there's a season of just grinding it out, then there's a season of do we pivot or do we continue, then there's a season of, all sorts of different decisions, and the imposter syndrome is always lurking. Even the most super confident entrepreneur and business person, but in particular entrepreneurs, because we always have ideas, and as Roger mentioned very early on, you're jumping into the pool, you're not sure if it has water in it, but this is the direction you want to head in, you want to explore the pool, so you take a dive or you jump out of the plane and you start building the parachute on the way down. that's just the nature of entrepreneurship.
That
so
sums it up.
yeah, I mean, and coming back to the whole crazy thing where people may look at what you're doing and determine, well, man, that's crazy. Like, why would you even think about doing this or think about doing that? Or it sounds nice, but I don't think it would work. And so you have to have this sort of audacity and creative stubbornness to determine that this idea, I'm not 100% certain it'll work, but I'm 100% certain I will pursue it. And that, to me, is entrepreneurship. I don't know if you have anything to add to leaning into the creativity part of it.
Yeah, well, just following on from what Natalie was saying a little bit was, when I did hear that O'Keefe was taking on Brimstone Hill, culturally, we have this situation where a lot of people say, "You doing what?"
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yep.
And when I heard it, I thought about it for a second, because I have trained my mind not to go down that road. You doing what kind of thing, or that ain't gonna work, because I've heard it for so many years. And I said to the person who told me that when I went up there, I said kudos to him, and I actually said he got big kahunas. Because it takes a lot. Now, having said that, sometimes you have to create something and they will come, and you create it of a certain standard, and then that standard is what brings them there. I mean, you already had an amazing location, high up, one of the most stunning views in the Caribbean. Yeah. So I think that just biting that bullet and going for it was probably, I would guess, a very hard decision, right? Yeah. Because you're also dealing with, a committee. I'm not speaking for you, but it's not just you your own decisions, because at some point you will get to that sunset thing. But all I'm saying is that there are other speed bumps in the road that you're going to have to overcome, and I know you're going to overcome them. But just back to the hurdles, is that we culturally do hear a lot of, why are you doing that, or that ain't gonna work, or what you up to again, that kind of a thing. I remember when I started Spice Mill, it was my dad who said, and he himself was somewhat of an entrepreneur. He was a businessman, but business moved differently in those days, right? It was a little inch at a time and build it over time. It was legacy stuff. And when I bought that property, he said, "You did what?" You bought a property, because back then it was the road to nowhere politically. People, I don't even know how that came up. And I said, well, one day it's going to be a road to somewhere. Maybe that was me convincing myself that, and trust me, we did come to a point where I had to question, whether to continue or not. I have learned over the years that there's another saying that we don't grow up culturally here. If you fail, if you're going to fail fast. Mm-hmm. Meaning, I did not understand that until I went to a trade show, and this guy who was building surfboards went up, and he was the keynote speaker. And until I heard his story, I never understood it. But what happens is that if you take the plunge and you realize truthfully that this path that you're on is not sustainable, but you want to go down another path, it's okay to close off this path and move to the next one. Okay, so if you're going to fail fast. But for me, that was never, my thing was failure was not an option. So I sunk everything into anything I did. Right. And I could think back of a few things that maybe I should have closed on a little faster. But there's this sort of stigma about closing something down that we grew up with. Bankruptcy is not a thing here, a word that we use or want to use. So yeah, I've had to grapple with a lot of these terms in my later years. Thankfully, so far, knock wood, that we're still around, and we will be for a while. So
excellent. And as you touched on, it's now for a break. We're in our second hour. The first hour was, I forgot to mention, courtesy Rams TDC. And our second hour is going to be Horsfords and Bougainvillea Books and Gifts. So we're thankful to our sponsors for supporting this program. So on to the sponsors.
WINN is 98.9. 98.9 is Win FM.
Welcome to Bougainvillea Books and Gifts, where every visit is a journey through time and imagination. Step into a world of literary wonders at our boutique bookstore, where every book tells a story and every corner holds a treasure waiting to be discovered. Immerse yourself in the enchanting aromas of our scented candles, perfect for creating a cozy atmosphere in any space. Explore our exquisite handcrafted jewelry. Whether you're searching for the perfect gift for that special someone or simply indulging in a little self-care, Bougainvillea Books and Gifts has something for everyone.
Ready to save while you build? Now you can at Builders Paradise. Yes, shoppers, build up your Value Club points at Builders Paradise. That's right, Value Club members and shoppers, your favorite frequent buyer club is now available at the home of hardware and more. Whether you're laying tiles, painting walls, replacing doors, upgrading windows, or fixing up your home, every purchase at Builders Paradise now earns you Value Club points. Enjoy exclusive benefits like discounts on thousands of items, special savings for seniors, instant deals, quarterly rebates, plus an extra up to 2% off every quarter. Shop more, save more, earn more, only at Builders Paradise. Don't miss out. Start building your rewards today with Value Club at Builders Paradise, because every bolt, board, and brush brings you closer to bigger, better savings. Terms and conditions apply.
Yes, welcome back. And I actually forgot, we were so deep in conversation, I forgot to ask Roger for a top up of my Ramtini. So
Come
maybe
on.
he'll get to
Got it
that.
right here.
Okay, right here. Here we go. Yes, thank you very much. And one of the things that Roger touched on, I know Keith and Natalie, was the fact that sometimes, well, speaking to Roger's part about the failing fast, failing quickly, I think, and as a creative myself and being in the creative space, a lot of times you get very, very emotionally connected to an idea or a project. So the thought of stopping it is like you're cutting off a piece of your hat or something like that. So you're not thinking of it in the business sense, because a lot of the times to fail quickly is best business practice. You know, you can close the shop, you could close a chapter on this and pivot or move on to something else. But when you think that what you're creating is a part of you, is a part of your identity, it's very hard for you to even consider cutting it off. But in reflection and in a practical sense, it may make sense to say, well, make a hard assessment and say, you know what, maybe I give it one more year. And if it doesn't at least move the needle a little of an inch in the right direction, then I just have to make the harsh decision. And I've had experiences like that in my business as well over the last 20 years or so. So I totally understand and appreciate what you guys have been saying. The same article suggested that creativity isn't just about painting, writing, or performing. It's a way of thinking, seeing the world, and approaching problems. Psychologists define creativity as the ability to generate novel ideas, make unexpected connections, and see beyond the obvious. We just had that discussion. Some people are naturally wired this way, even if they've never considered themselves artists, quote unquote. Applying your creative mindset, are there any dreams you have for your community, your business, or your country that you would like to share? Let's call it your dreamscape. So let your imagination run wild. This is, you don't have any restrictions. This is you know, just imagine, how can I, and beyond your business, maybe in the industry or beyond the industry, whatever it is, in a creative, you have a fresh canvas, paint it for us, paint it for the audience. Share a little bit of your, I'll let Roger jump in and say, okay, get a little
Tell me
break.
one more time again.
Okay, so
My brain
yeah, I understand, because you so what happened just now with Roger is that he was just thinking about a new idea. Because we all have that. So applying your creative mindset, are there any dreams you have for the community, the business, the country that you would like to share? So whether it is from on the creative side, business side, the industry side, how would you like to see things, or how would you imagine things could be in the perfect setting for the country, your business, and the community?
Want to go first, O'Keefe?
I see O'Keefe taking a sip. So
I'm trying to get bubbly right now.
Okay, I'll jump in, because there's one thing that every time I drive down from Frigate Bay into town, and I think one of the things we go through in life is we remember childhood experiences, right? So I would be driving, anytime I drove from Frigate Bay past Sugar's building down to Central Bank, I remember seeing these absolutely gorgeous green sugarcane fields stretching all the way up to McTinley when we were Sugar Town, yeah. And back in the days as a child, although it was illegal for us, or I think it was, well, certainly we used to eat sugarcane even when it was illegal, and hop the trains. But you know, but yeah, I always remember those green sugarcane fields. And today, and for several years, as I passed that whole basin where the water table is, I did explore this probably 6-7 years ago, of maybe approaching government, and I did approach one minister of agriculture at some point. It was several years ago, about turning that basin into, you know, an organic farm of such, because you can't leach with chemicals, but you know, thousands of coconut trees, you know, sorrel. Monkey sometimes eats sorrel, but you know, anything that could grow, that could get rid of that shrub, bush, weed, to make it beautiful again, but hopefully become something that we can use within, maybe divvy up some, maybe it has to be totally organic. I was even thinking of things that grows in dry weather, things like agave. They use that in Mexico for their tequila. Of course, can't call it tequila down here, but it grows in dry climates. And here we're talking about putting down for years solar farms, and everything we talk about in St. Kitts has some element of concrete. Take this area and put a hotel, take this area and put something else. And nobody's looking at taking a gorgeous basin like that and turning it into something where could create some additional employment and maybe even some sugarcane fields for the production of rum. One of the things that I don't think we actually know and realize until I got into this business is that the reason we don't have rum distilleries in St. Kitts and many other islands do is because it was illegal for us to cut sugarcane and use it for the production of rum and everything else. And since it's been, it's no longer somewhat criminal to do that. You're hearing all the grandfathers and grandmothers say, "Oh, I went mountain and do my Hammond." Right. I never realized. But history, you learn so much about certain things that define where we are today or not, especially in the rum space. And I think that basin, and not just that basin, there's many other areas that we could be looking at things that are unique and different. And I don't, of course, please, I don't have the answers on how to do it. Sometimes these ideas become way more complicated than is obvious, right? So it's just an idea, and you just asked me to bring something that I dug up in my mind.
I think it's important that to what you just said is, and I'm an ideas person, so I don't have a problem with just people coming up with quote unquote crazy ideas, and you may be the birther of the idea, but there may be some in putting that seed out there may be some other entity or person who is the right match to execute the idea. And I think we have Marshall, we have Brisbane, we have myself, we have a lot of other people out there who we're thinking about ideas all the time. It may be within our space, outside our space. And I think we need to have a community that is, we're getting there, but a community that is more open to receiving quote unquote crazy ideas, because that is where you get the nexus point to really pursue in certain directions. Okay, well, that's a bit out there, but I could see the merit in at least pursuing some aspect of it, because I never really thought about doing that because it's so out there. So I think we need more of that. Let's not worry about how the idea is going to be executed. Let's just all get ideas just floating out there, just being shared, and eventually it's going to percolate and evolve into something, I believe. So on to you, O'Keefe, in terms of, or Natalie, O'Keefe plus Natalie, in terms of just, let me repeat it again, it's applying your creative mindset, and there are any dreams for your community, your business, the country, in terms of how you would like to see things, or how you think things could be, in a creative sense.
One of my goals in life is to see people happy.
Okay.
And giving. Sometimes it's not about the aspect of having the funds or the dollars. It's just, make sure you give. I always give, not to get back today or tomorrow, but to just get back that response of thank you, or seeing somebody change. I've been through many employees that I've seen growing today, and some that fall. But I'm always happy to inspire a lot of the young generations, the skills that I learned,
Right.
you know, throughout the world, you know, and to give them back so they could, you know, it could grow.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of us don't do that. You know, with me being in the kitchen or even being in a restaurant, I try my best not to hide anything from my staff. You know, because you know somebody teach you, so they need to learn.
Right.
You know, I know anybody could cook a fish, or anybody could cook a steak, but it's the love you put into it. You know, what you could change. I could show you a recipe, but you know, so for instance, I'm from Jamaica, so I would cook my chicken with a little love from Jamaica. Do I feel like it fit into St. Kitts market? No, you know, because it's jerk chicken, you know, if you want to call it that, you know, but to come up with your flavor and your spice from here, you know, like, so for instance, if we had sugarcane, imagine marinating some chicken in some sugarcane, you know, something different, you know, come out with your love, you know, and I really also agree with Roger, you know, that, you know, they should have had some, like, areas where they plant sugar canes where it could grow rum or utilize it for something else. I mean, on my menu right now, I have a rum punch. One of the things that my manager came up to me, and I like that because she's giving me inspiration as well. Yeah, she came up with having, you know, soaking pieces of the sugar cane
in the rum.
And we use that as a garnish, you know, and it's just giving back. It's a St. Kitts rum,
Right.
you know, it's just giving back. This is what St. Kitts was all about a couple of years ago, you know, and even being at Brimstone Hill, looking at the structure, you know, with our ancestries, you know, we think about slavery, and, you know, some people don't want to think about that, but it's here, you know, and a lot of people travel all over the world to see this, you know, embrace it, not try to destroy it.
And it's a story of resilience, you know. Yes, there's a lot of darkness surrounding slavery, but there's also a story of resilience and triumph in that, because look at where St. Kitts is today,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah, I mean, it's certainly, and resilience is a key component in the entrepreneurial landscape. You have to, because we've been speaking about it off and on, there are roadblocks, there are potholes, etc. You're going to get knocked down. You have to make a determination. Are you going to continue? Are you going to, you know, call it quits? So resilience is definitely a key component. And so speaking of the Brimstone Hill part of it, in terms of, and you don't have to reveal, because I know they probably have a lot of grand plans that they, you know, kind of trickle it, but as much as you can share, might there be any like specific, I haven't really looked at the menu in terms of the current lunch menu, but in terms of having like signature cocktails, signature dishes that kind of tie in some elements of a Brimstone Hill or Gibraltar, because that's in the name. So are there plans of doing stuff like that?
Well, that's already happening right now.
yeah.
Oh, you see, there you go.
Yeah.
There you go. So
just to speak to a little bit about it, in terms of food, you know, it was really important, not only to us, but also to the Brimstone Hill Society, to come up with dishes that echo the history of, you know, Brimstone Hill and what happened there when it was a thriving fortress with soldiers. And part of that was thinking of, well, what were the foods that the soldiers used to get for their rations? So the entree menu is we actually named it Soldier's Rations.
Okay.
And a typical soldier's ration used to be peas, carrots, beef, and wine. And I believe in the afternoon they used to have rum.
Okay.
But so one of the dishes that O'Keefe came up with was a cottage pie, which is a traditional English dish. It's similar to a shepherd's pie, which people probably are more familiar with. But shepherd's pie is with lamb, and a cottage pie is with beef. So that's where you have the ground beef, the peas, and the carrots all together, and then you put mashed potatoes on top. And he bakes it with a panko crumb on top as well, a panko parmesan crumble. And outside of that, you know, even in the cocktail menu, there's a lot of, one thing that O'Keefe and I love is margaritas. Not really a thing that Kittitians are into yet, but he's come up with a really nice craft margarita menu that echoes, you know, some of the things you might see at Brimstone. So one of them is actually black, and he did that to mimic gunpowder, you know, because when you think of guns and cannons, you know, there's gunpowder in that, you know. So yeah, there's a lot of elements that speak to the history.
A black martini, you said?
Margarita.
Margarita.
Yeah,
Sorry.
it's called
Okay.
the Shadow. It's really
So
good.
the Shadow.
It's one of my favorites.
Okay. I'm intrigued.
I gotta try that.
Yeah. All right, so we're going to come back on that line, and I think we're due for a commercial break. So we will be taking a break in a few, and we'll be right back.
We're different. We're 98.9. 98.9. Win FM.
Welcome to Bougainvillea Books and Gifts, where every visit is a journey through time and imagination. Step into a world of literary wonders at our boutique bookstore, where every book tells a story and every corner holds a treasure waiting to be discovered. Immerse yourself in the enchanting aromas of our scented candles, perfect for creating a cozy atmosphere in any space. Explore our exquisite handcrafted jewelry, whether you're searching for the perfect gift for that special someone or simply indulging in a little self-care. Bougainvillea Books and Gifts has something for everyone.
Attention, St. Kitts and Nevis. The countdown is on and time is running out. This is your final call, your last chance to save big at Hostos Automotive during our VAT Off Drive On Blount event. It's your final call, your last chance to get up to $15,000 in total savings. No down payment, free servicing for 12 months, free bill of sale, $1,000 in groceries, or 3 months of free gas, free registration, licensing, tinting, and accessories, and 4% VAT off on top of it all. Yes, you've heard right. Everything free and 4% VAT off. But listen closely. This incredible sale ends when June ends. No extensions, no do-overs. This is your final call. Your last chance for the biggest auto sales saving for the year. So don't walk, run to Hostos Automotive now. Your dream car is waiting, and these deals are ready to roll. Hostos Automotive, where affordability meets the road. Terms and conditions apply.
All right, welcome back. Apparently we have a caller, so we can head right into that. Morning, caller. Caller still there? Okay, I'll just have a sip in the meantime.
Well, we still have our mangotini to taste.
Oh, well,
but
yeah. Freaking. Well, we're heading into our last half an hour, about to land this Creative Voices plane on a nice outstretched runway. And while we get the caller online, you can start thinking about what you consider to be a signal achievement in your life to date and what makes it special and significant to you. So I'll give you like a few minutes to just think about, signature achievement. Seems like the call may have dropped. We'll caller, if you got disconnected, please call back. We look forward to hearing from you. But while the caller is hopefully calling back, and O'Keith and Roger gather their thoughts, from my vantage point in terms of, okay, call is back. Hi, caller.
Hi, how are you? Are you hearing me now?
Yeah, the call sounds very familiar.
Yes. Excellent show. It's Sarah calling in. I am really enjoying the discussion and learning a lot about the culinary arts, but also about the food industry in St. Kitts and Nevis in general. But I'm curious to know about decor, the extent to which, where does that come in? Because both of you, O'Keith and Roger, have spectacular. Well, O'Keith I've seen from the pictures, and Roger I've been to Spiceman many times, and there's clearly a lot of thought that goes into picking the type of furniture, the type of bar, the type of light fixtures, all of that. So how important is that, and where does that come in? Is it that you come up with the concept, and then you think of the menu and the name of the restaurant, and then, because I think from time to time this gets overlooked, but it's such an important part of the entire restaurant experience. So that was my question, hoping that you're hearing me loud and clear, and thanks for a great conversation.
Yeah. Thanks for calling in, Sarah. I think that's I hadn't thought about that, but that's a very good question.
All right.
So, Keith, Mike, it's all yours.
Okay. My wife could tell you I'm a very OCD person, and I love art. I love art, and coming with the concept between how the environment's supposed to look is showing myself how I would like to, where I would like to be, how I would like somebody to come into my home and look at it. So I choose it off of the base of my perfection. That's right. You know, quality of food is going to, well, Brimstone Hill itself, it's me traveling to every restaurant here in St. Kitts and notice what's not on the menu that, I travel overseas between Europe, America, that's not here that we could give to not just tourists but to the locals. And I came out with dishes that hopefully people would definitely love, taste wise with the buds, because everybody have a different taste bud.
Right.
And using key ingredients to spark that attention to make it different. One of the things my wife see me doing there right now, and we use an Italian flour, is making my own ravioli from scratch. And trying to use ingredients that's here. And what I got was some local butternut squash, and create that to a dish for somebody who is vegetarian, other than the people who eat meats, and
So this is at Gibraltar.
Gibraltar.
Okay.
And hopefully it tastes good. And since
It tastes really good.
since we've been softly open, I'm really loving to hear the feedback on just that, that I could know how to roll a pasta.
So in terms of rolling the pasta, that's so Natalie has spoken about the fact that I don't know to what degree you had that latitude to do those type of things. I imagine not really at the airport restaurant.
Correct.
I know you can kind of like just kind of spread your creative wings and maybe reconnect with some elements that you used to do way back when. So is that similar? Okay.
Correct.
That's
Correct.
excellent.
correct.
So you're smiling a lot more when you're at Gibraltar, although it's like non-stop 7 days a week, no sleep. But as you say, it's something that drives you because you're feeling you're being fed. You're feeding, but you're also being fed by the experience.
Experience, correct.
Yeah,
Excellent.
100%.
Yeah.
And in terms of the decor, with Brimstone being a UNESCO World Heritage Site, and it's actually mind-blowing to know that Brimstone Hill is the only UNESCO World Heritage Site in the entire Caribbean region.
Wow.
And that's the same
I should know that, but
the pyramids have.
Yeah.
It's a really big deal, and it's something that locals and us as Catticians need to be really proud of, because it's a very rare distinction to have. So in terms of decor, with being a UNESCO World Heritage Site, there's a lot of restrictions on the type of materials that can be used,
Right.
because we have to stick to what was the original materials, which is stone, it's wood, it's rope, it's mortar. We can't bring elements like glass or metal or anything too industrial there. But I think that the job that O'Keefe did with the decor, it pays tribute to what the history of Brimstone Hill is with the materials he used, but he put his own modern flair and abstract and, eclectic vibe to it, to create something really unique.
You're really selling this
Yeah.
because I can't wait to go and really see.
Sorry,
You
I'm a
know what I'm saying?
marketer.
Yeah,
this is a marketer.
I'm really looking forward to going up there.
I think we may have to do a show up there.
Yeah, there you go.
I think so.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
All right, Roger, what do you have to? In terms
From
of,
a decor standpoint, I was telling somebody this story just yesterday, because I tried to use as much natural materials on the beach as possible. If you go to Spice Mill, I would say more than 75% of it is wood. And I grew up in a society, certainly after Hurricane Hugo, where everybody was building with concrete, right, scared of the hurricanes and so on. One of the things I did not want to have a concrete structure on this beautiful beach. And I had met a guy out of Dominica. He was living there. He had come down around 2007 to be a set designer builder for the first Pirates of the Caribbean movie. And ended up living there, and he did some amazing woodwork, and his partner was a glass blower and so on. And I met them here at a trade show, and I said, hey, I want to do a beach bar, actual bar on the beach. That's different. I had the restaurant designed by a well-known architect here, Lindbergh Alvarenga, and he did an amazing job of, me letting him know how I wanted it terraced down to the beach. But the beach bar for me needed to be very down to earth, and I thought I wanted to get somebody to help me do that. So I remember being on the beach, and I took my finger, and the guy who helped me design it, he still have this picture of me with my finger in the sand drawing this 6-sided bar. And the first thing I told him, I do not want a single window. He said, you don't want a single window? What are you going to do with the alcohol? I said, if I have to take it in myself every single night, I will. Not a single window. I don't want a post. I don't know how you're going to do it, but this bar has to feel very open.
Right.
And he came up with a middle structure where you could actually see through where the bottles are to the view to Nevis. And we used a coconut wood top bar. Coconut wood is the softest wood on the planet. It was kilned in Dominica. We shipped up driftwood from the beaches of Dominica because it's hard to find the kind of driftwood here. And we built that bar out of driftwood basket lights that were made by the Carib Indians of Dominica. Then we had another bar, a side event bar, that was made out of Caligno canoe made by the Carib Indians as well.
Okay.
And our chandelier in the main dining area is these unfinished upside down baskets that actually look like jellyfish. So we try to incorporate as much creativity using things from St. Kitts and the other islands. And so we've achieved a lot. I try not to allow certain events that would encourage people to light up and take their cans of bacon and light them up because it would become the biggest bonfire ever. But so I'm very cautious about that. But yes, so that's certainly decor. That's one side of decor. Then there's the decor for events, which if you build something with initial vibe and feel, there's may not be a huge need for additional decor, and that's where my creativity ends. But I do have someone who is my manager, Neslin, who just does amazing decor for events and so forth. And then if people are doing weddings and events and they want to bring in their own decor person, then they can do that. So yeah.
Well, as you mentioned that, I recall one experience, personal experience at Spice Mill. This was years ago, and I think I had a meeting with someone, and Roger came in as I was taking my seat, and he nudged me and said, you know how you can tell locals at a beach restaurant? I said, what are you talking about? He said they have their back to the view.
Oh boy.
Yeah, and it was funny, but it was also because as locals, quote unquote locals, we sometimes take what we have. It's really paradise. We take it for granted.
Yes.
Everywhere you're driving around is a spectacular view, and when you think of Brimstone Hill and you think about Spice Mill in particular, if you've been at Spice Mill, you really don't have to overdo. I think it was a perfect balance of paying tribute to the location and not overdoing it, because the backdrop of Nevis, the beach towards Nevis, that's like a massive painting that is right there.
Yep.
So one of the walls of Spice Mill is the actual view. And so that to me is quote unquote killer. And then for Brimstone Hill, which I can't wait to experience, Gibraltar, imagine all the panoramic views, and as it's new, the additional elements and creativity you would put in place to take advantage of the surroundings of Brimstone Hill. So on that note, we're going to take a commercial break. I think we're due for one, and then we'll get back. Yeah, you guys are not off the hook. We had the thing about the signal achievement in your life to date. Think about that over the break, and then we'll get back to that.
And then we're going to taste the mango tea.
All right, excellent. I'm looking forward to that.
found the sound. 98.9 Win FM.
This Mother's Day weekend, give her the gift of style, comfort, and savings during the Hospice Mother's Day mega sale. Mothers deserve more. From Thursday, May 8th to Saturday, May 10th is 25% off everything store-wide and all discountable items at Hospice Building and Neva Centers, where we say, build with us. Hospice Furniture and Appliances. Get style, comfort, and savings. Ashley Home Stores and Kits. Home to her favorite looks. Builder's Paradise. Always bringing you the everyday lowest prices. Plus at Hospice Furniture and Appliances and Ashley's Home Store, get 25% off all cash sales. And wait for it, double cash back on all higher purchases. And at Hospice Building and Neva Centers, it's a solid 25% off all discountable items. Just in time for those home improvement projects she's been dreaming about. Mothers deserve more. She deserves it all. The savings, the comfort, the beauty. So don't miss the 3-day Mother's Day mega sale. Thursday, May 8th to Saturday, May 10th at Hosford's and Builder's Paradise. Built for her, price for you. Terms and conditions apply. Mothers deserve more.
Welcome to Bougainvillea Books and Gifts, where every visit is a journey through time and imagination. Step into a world of literary wonders at our boutique bookstore, where every book tells a story and every corner holds a treasure waiting to be discovered. Immerse yourself in the enchanting aromas of our scented candles, perfect for creating a cozy atmosphere in any space. Explore our exquisite handcrafted jewelry, whether you're searching for the perfect gift for that special someone or simply indulging in a little self-care. Bougainvillea Books and Gifts has something for everyone.
Welcome back to Creative Voices, here with O'Keith Marshall, Natalie Marshall, and Roger Brisbane, culinary giants. Needless to say, tremendous stories that they've shared over the course of this morning. And so we're going to head back to O'Keith to share his signal achievement to date. And let's be honest, as creatives, we always have a number of things that we would have encountered, and sometimes it feels a little bit self-absorbent to share a signal achievement, but it is what it is, and we sometimes just have to, just say it and share it. So, Keith, up to you.
Well, let me interrupt. It's just so that we can finish this one other cocktail that I brought.
Oh, yeah.
And it would give him better inspiration.
All right, that makes sense.
I'm going to shake up our Mangotini canned cocktail. Remember, we have coming out our hibiscus Teeny canned cocktail. And then, and I know the name's going to kind of throw some people off. This is our Nevis Mangotini cocktail. Twist it a bit this way.
Yeah. Excellent.
So basically, this was born out of 2 years ago, the Nevis Mango Festival, when I made our first fresh mango rum. And then a few months later, I came up with the Nevis Mangotini cocktail at the bar. And then I realized I wanted to go into producing canned cocktails, ready-to-drink cocktails that would be sold in the U.S. and the Caribbean. The only challenge is that when it comes to canned cocktails, for it to be sold in the U.S., they must be crafted there. So what I did is I took a bottle of our Nevis Mango rum, sent it to a flavor company in the U.S., and I said, I want you to emulate as best as possible this Nevis Mango rum flavor, so I can use it in the cocktail, and similarly our hibiscus rum for the rum teeny. So
are they available currently locally or not?
So you can have the cocktails at our bar made fresh with fresh lime and so on. However, for canned cocktails, they have to be made a certain way. So they will be available hopefully within the next 4 to 6 weeks, and they're going to be on our website and so on. We'll do a proper launch. So this one is the canned cocktail. We just finished tasting the rum teeny cocktail.
So we're getting a first taste.
Yes, actually, you are. Actually, I forgot to tell you. You are the first people to taste the actual Nevis Mangotini cocktail I hope a politician's not going to get offended here because I plan to go to Nevis to introduce it to them. But
no, man, one federation.
All right, cheers. Well, hold on. Sorry.
Hi.
There you go. How dare you? Yeah, pass those around.
So I'm just letting all my clients know today that if I'm unavailable, it's because I'm taking a...
Okay, let's do a little toast again.
Hi.
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 Hi. Hi.
Oh my God.
Hey, Roger.
Yeah.
That's really good.
Very nice.
This is really good.
Wow.
Yeah.
Very nice.
Very
So this is 7.5% straight from the can.
2 cases, please.
Very refreshing.
Yeah, very refreshing. And
sorry, give me that.
Yes,
repeat
it's
that,
only
please.
7.5%.
Okay.
It tastes like zero, really.
Correct,
It does.
correct.
But for the ready to drink cocktail market, you can go up to 12%, and then what we decided to do 7.5. So
Okay.
you can drink more than one. But yeah, so
Yeah,
okay,
makes sense.
Really good.
all right.
All right, okay.
Hold on, let me take one. Hi, I'm Roger. Thank you.
Yeah, man.
All right. What was the question again?
Yeah, the signal achievement to date that you would care to mention?
I would definitely say my achievement from, growing up, I mean, you guys would call it ghetto, but coming from Jamaica in the hood to where I'm at right now, even been homeless and owning 2 restaurants and even trying to fit into my dad's shoes, it's a big achievement. And having the help I have right now, my staff, my operation manager, Malika Frame, my general manager, Nalanda, my chefs, having them who also been on the struggle as well. And, yes, and, and even coming to St. Kitts and, introduced to my wife, achievement, I wouldn't be able to say thank you without all the support I have with the full team I have, between the airport and at Gibraltar. A big achievement. A lot of my staff know how I grew up because I inspire them and let them know, I grew up with zinc fence,
Right.
and now I have lights, I've seen the tunnel, and it's hard work, just never give up. It's hard work, and I feel very proud of myself where I'm at right now.
Yeah, man, and I think most persons who would come in contact with O'Keith, is very, very soft-spoken, very humble, very approachable individual, and he's just one of those kind of persons that, even if you don't know him that well, just the energy, you want to see him do well. If you don't even know what he's doing, you're just hoping that whatever he's doing, he's successful at it, because you feel like he's a character that you want, one of those characters you want to see winning. So that is my perception of someone like O'Keith.
Thank you.
So good stuff. I mean, it's very inspirational. As you mentioned, being homeless, that's not an easy thing. It's something that we can't really imagine. I only know of maybe 1 or 2 persons in St. Kitts, and they have great stories as well that at some point were slightly homeless. But it's not something that we encounter much of in terms of in St. Kitts, where you have this as low as you can go in terms of a member of society and then just achieving great success. So major kudos to you. And even though you've achieved this, it's still just a start, I believe.
Yes.
So I'm looking forward to all the other stuff.
Yeah,
Roger, Roger has a dictionary of maybe a Bible full of signal achievements. So, but just pick one that you think would be worthy of sharing.
Of course, my mind did run back on a couple, but it kept coming back to one, and most folks would probably think that I'm going to talk about Spice Mill, which has been a big signal achievement for me, yes. But the one that my mind keeps running back to goes way back, and I'll tell you why. When I was hired at Four Seasons, I believe, I was fresh out of hospitality school, and when I came back to St. Kitts, few of my friends said, go and interview at Four Seasons. And I was like, there's no way I'm going to live in Nevis. You know, too small, blah, blah, blah. I didn't appreciate the beauty, whatever. And I remember getting the call to come for an interview, and I said to a friend of mine, I said, I'm going to put on my Bermuda shorts and my socks, because they ain't going to hire me, right? Nobody goes to an interview in short pants. But the hotel was just coming out to the ground, and lo and behold, I get to the door, and the general manager, this was in town where Bank of Nevis is right now, meets me at the door with Bermuda shorts and long socks. And he says, oh, I see you like Bermuda shorts. I was mortified. Anyway, so going for the interview, and he tells me that he was the GM of Elbow Beach in Bermuda, which is right next to the school that I went to. 2 ticks in my favor, but not ones that I wanted. And I got hired, and I was hired, I was sent to Maui, came back. But the biggest achievement leading up to this story was we hired everyone at Four Seasons on attitude, mostly because there was very few hotels with very small number of rooms, and opening of Four Seasons Resort needed a certain amount of experience. And the GM said, attitude is what's going to get you through the door. Within 2 years, I kid you not, Four Seasons Nevis, and I'm not sure if even many people remember this, won the first ever 5-diamond award in the history of the Caribbean. There was no hotel ever to win a 5-diamond award, from Trinidad in the south to Bahamas in the north. Just did not exist. And that came from the hotel side and the restaurant that I also managed. But it was a whole entire approach that Four Seasons took, and the staff took, the 600 or 700 staff. And I would say, you know, the achievement there was a full-on team effort, because I remember when the spotters came through, and they came to the restaurant. One guy came to the restaurant in short pants because we had a dress code, and I had to send him to the escort him to the lobby. But he said my pants and long sleeve shirts had gone to dry cleaners just a couple hours ago, so there was no way he was going to get them back. I said, well, let me check. I'll buy you a drink in the lobby. And at that time there was, I had a suspicion, and I called up my friend Nabil, who was the F&B director, and I said, I think we got him, because we were all wondering when they were coming. Right. And he himself ran up to housekeeping. They had literally just finished dry cleaning. He's in the golf cart, rushing back down to his room, and we got the guy back to his room with his pants, his shirt, and he came back into the restaurant, and I put my best server, Mackie France, on the table back then. And, you know, I think we would have still blown him away anyway, but what he was doing was testing us to see if we were going to let him in and not adhere to the dress code. Right. But every angle and every department that he went into, we just got extremely high marks in everything that Four Seasons had done. And I would say that was one of the achievements that I don't think back on a lot. And there are many more, trust me, even where, you know, Spice Mill is concerned, but that was one that for the country, St. Kitts and Nevis, to achieve that 5-diamond award is what helped catapult us in tourism.
That's outstanding. Yeah. I didn't know about that. So learning a lot of things here this morning. We're going to take our final commercial break. Yeah? And then once we're back, we'll just have maybe a 1-minute closing, the inspirational words for entrepreneurs, persons in the culinary space, before we close off this segment of Creative Voices.
WNN is 98.9. 98.9 is Win FM.
Supermarket shoppers understand that convenience matters. At Hortsport's Value Mart IGA, we know that price matters most. Ample parking and the widest variety matter. At Hortsport's Value Mart IGA, we know that price matters most. clean, spacious aisles, and the highest level of customer service all matter. At Hortford's Valuemart IGA, price matters most. We've renewed our commitment to guarantee the lowest prices in the Federation. Why? Because we understand that in this tough economic environment, price matters most. Shop smart. Shop Valuemart, where price matters most. Farms Estate Nevis and Wellington Road, St. Kitts.
Price matters most.
Welcome to Bougainvillea Books and Gifts, where every visit is a journey through time and imagination. Step into a world of literary wonders at our boutique bookstore, where every book tells a story and every corner holds a treasure waiting to be discovered. Immerse yourself in the enchanting aromas of our scented candles, perfect for creating a cozy atmosphere in any space. Explore our exquisite handcrafted jewelry, whether you're searching for the perfect gift for that special someone or simply indulging in a little self-care. Bougainvillea Books and Gifts has something for everyone.
All right, welcome back. So we have about 1-2 minutes before we depart, and I'm probably taking a bottle of hibiscus rum with me. But just for O'Keith and Roger to leave with 20 seconds words of advice, encouragement for persons in the entrepreneurial space and also the culinary space. Start with you, O'Keith. Just
Why
some
you guys
simple
always
words.
start?
All right, Roger, take it.
Well,
Roger,
all
take
right.
it.
So I would say my words of encouragement is if there's this word passion, right? I do believe in it, but there's also reality. But if you have an idea and you're truly passionate about it, give it a lot of thought. Because in this day and age, you have to look at the business aspect, how you're going to get the money, where it's coming from. Banks are not like it was before.
Sure.
And then get as much advice as you can, and then don't be afraid to fall. You're probably going to learn more as you fall, and just give it your absolute all.
Excellent.
And if you need to fail just to adjust things, that is not a negative word.
It's just learning. It's a lesson.
You can close it for 6 months just to save your cash and come back and make the adjustments that you want.
Excellent.
Okay.
Keith, on to you.
To everyone out there, I would definitely say don't give up. Keep on trying. Like Roger said, you're going to always fall. And you're always going to get doors closed in front of you. There's always another door, and just keep on trying, and love what you do. And if you're giving anything out there to anyone or yourself, just make sure it's how you want it to be done and try to perfect it.
Excellent. So this weekend, Saturday or Sunday, lunch at Gibraltar, and then maybe an early evening with some sipping and some snacks at Spice Mill Restaurant. All right, see you all there. Thanks for coming,
Thank you.
guys.
Thank you.
All right.
You found the sound. 98.